All right, got it going. So again, this webinar is going to be recorded for you guys so you can get it back at a later time. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, or there will be time for us to actually interact during this particular session. Also, just remember that this webinar is just about supporting our kids. As you know, a part of the Louisiana Comeback initiative includes attendance and well-being. So this is a huge part of that as well. Today's agenda, of course, making sure you guys sign in. We'll go over the monthly call purpose. It's been the same for the entire year. Morning inspiration and activity. Today's subject and presentation, I'll be presenting it on reentry after suspension. Just a few notes on certain things you can do to create a reentry plan for your school going into the next year. There's an opportunity for support from our team that's on from LSU Social Research and Evaluation Center. I believe I saw Ms. Rochelle and Dr. Judith and Ms. Jada, and I think Ms. Gwen is on, Dr. Gwen is on as well. They have this great opportunity for us that's coming up, and I've reached out to some of you guys already, so I'll be getting back with you. We'll have activity if we have time for question and answers, and of course, some updates. Of course, this year, our focus and theme has been enrollment, engagement, and encouragement. And right now, we are at the tail end, so we are in the encouragement phase, which I'm super excited about because this week, you guys received your certificates to give out to encourage the students to, encourage them by rewarding them and celebrating them for practicing good attendance, having good attendance practices. But also, if you notice, instead of just perfect attendance awards, you guys were sent 3 different types of certificates as they're labeled in our attendance guidance. And I want it to be clear. So the attendance guidance, the awards guidance, it was created for next school year, but I know that you guys were very much so interested in having updated certificates. So I really pushed and begged and emailed to make sure we could get those certificates for this school year as well. So the same certificates you have this school year, they'll fall under that guidance as well. I just wanted to make sure that you guys had something to celebrate kids, since we had so many that were actually improving. So not only do you have the perfect attendance, you have the excellence in attendance. Remember, those are for kids that if you're going to do it for the semester, they only missed 5 days during the semester, and they had all of their excuses. You can give them a certificate for that. If you notice that you had a kid that had an improvement in attendance, make sure you acknowledge that. So next year, they're going to think to themselves, hey, I want to get me another certificate, and I don't want it to be an improvement. I want it to be excellence or perfect. So it gives them something to strive for. And of course, the purpose of these calls are to cultivate a viable network for state CWAs to discuss evidence-based best practices and offer support amongst colleagues. Location for those that are new to the call, a link is sent out every month, and we meet every first Wednesday of the month, except if there is a major event happening, then it will be pushed back to the following Wednesday, and we meet at 8 o'clock every first Wednesday of the month. If you have any questions, comments, testimonies, or concerns, please feel free to email me at shelnika.adams@la.gov with any of your questions, comments, concerns, or testimonies, because I like to share them. And here's our morning inspiration. I really like this talk, simply because it talks about something that we'll talk about in a little bit in regards to suspension. That's been a hot topic lately. As you guys heard, me and Mr. Prudom we're talking about this morning. So let's listen to our morning inspiration together.
I missed so many days of school because my mom's boyfriend was beating her up a lot. So I faked sick so I could stay home and try to protect her. When I was in 6th grade, I told my dad I hoped he died that day. The thing is, he did die that day of a heart attack while I was at school. And now when my mom's mad at me, she says, "You're not going to kill me like you did your dad." I got jumped a few months back. And these kids, they had a chain around my neck, and I just knew that I was going to die. But now those kids in that gang, like you did your dad. I got jumped a few months back. And these kids, they had a chain around my neck, and I just knew that I was going to die. But now those kids in that gang, they're at my school, and I'm scared to go back because I just know they're going to get me again. Well, I had to leave my childhood behind me a long time ago. As a school social worker, somebody who grew up about a mile around the corner in the old West Greenville, I have experience with these stories on a personal and a professional level. In fact, those were quotes from some of the students that I have the privilege of working with on a daily basis. Those kids and their stories are why I fight like hell every day to try to make sure we can do everything we can to keep them in school versus taking our chances with them out on the street. Mis niños son la sangre de mi corazón. I would stand here today and argue with you that it is our professional duty and our ethical duty to make sure we do everything we can to quit suspending kids for nonviolent infractions. All right? We know that a lot of our students are growing up in traumatic environments, in bad neighborhoods and bad homes. And this causes them tremendous problems when it comes to their ability to feel valued and to feel safe. So what you may look at a kid and you see, well, that's an oppositional kid, that's a defiant kid. Somebody else, they might see an abuse survivor acting in self-preservation. So what that can turn into is just maybe sometimes when we kick kids out of school for disrespect or disrupting schools, we may be actually punishing protective biological responses that are colliding with a classroom environment that we have not equipped to handle that. Churchill said, "A man does what he must, in spite of personal consequences and obstacles and dangers and pressures." And that is the basis for human morality. So in that spirit, I'm here today to argue that we must stop suspending kids for benign things. I'm going to tell you why. But first, before I go forward, I want to mention two things. First, it's important to note that when I refer to suspensions, I'm talking about out-of-school suspensions. And secondly, we obviously have to keep our schools safe. No debate. I'm not here to advocate that we excuse kids bringing weapons to school. I'm talking about nonviolent things like my student who last month got suspended 5 days out of school for having a cell phone in class. So what's the big deal about suspensions? Here's some things that they've been shown to do. They don't engage our parents. They're seriously not making our schools safer. They don't even stop the behaviors that we're trying to stop. 30 to 50% of all suspensions in America right now are repeat behaviors. They're not bringing our test scores up, and if I hadn't got you yet, they don't even make sense financially. Because right now, we're spending over $100,000 per year to keep a kid locked up. So what are some things suspensions will do for us? They will make sure, or let's say they will highly increase the chances that that student will be held back at least one grade. All right? They marginalize students who are already at risk, students who are black and brown, LGBTQ, and students with disabilities. A little while back, I was on a home visit seeing one of my favorite kids. They're all my favorite, but he's one of my favorites. And he was serving a very long suspension for something in my eyes that was silly. This kid looks at me with tears running down his eyes. And he says, "Mr. TJ, on top of all this school stuff, I just have a lot on my chest right now, man. I just came out to my mom as bisexual. She just told me I was a faggot and told me I just should go back in the closet." Suspension increases the chance that a student will end up involved with the juvenile justice system. And right now, suspension is the number one factor, the number one predictor that a kid will end up dropping out of high school. On this slide, you're going to see some public agencies that are openly opposed to out-of-school suspensions. As one educator put it, to me as the adult, suspension is something so unprovoked, something so outside of the norm, that I as the adult had no other option. Yet right now, according to the Department of Education, we nationally are suspending almost 4 million kids every year. 3 million for non-violent offenses. Now, I'm sure you're thinking it's just a bunch of punk teenagers. In your head, imagine, I'm sure everybody in here knows an elementary school age student. Picture one. Now, fill up the wellness arena with that kid. Because last year, just in this state, we suspended over 17,000 elementary school kids. In 2014, the United States of America suspended over 5,000 preschool kids. So, I know what you're thinking. If they're so bad, why are we doing them? The simple answer is, it's an easy way out. But it's not that easy. I work with schools and speak at schools quite often. I have some educator friends in the house today. And I always lead with one question. What's your primary goal as an educator? All right? And you think you can guess? It's not test scores. It's not graduation rates. It's not, I'm trying to make it to summer break. Overwhelmingly, these teachers and administrators and coaches and everybody at these schools tell me it's my goal to try to create better human beings. However, our schools are kind of boxed in their way of doing things right now. Because of outcomes measures, our teachers are a lot of times forced to teach to a test. Related arts programs and social emotional initiatives are on the back burner. We know that the brain is use dependent, and it takes consistent, repetitive lessons to build skills like these. However, we a lot of times will wait till our kids are in trouble or that kid before we hit them with these one and done interventions that are supposed to create new behaviors. If you went your whole life without working out, you turn 17, 18, you're going to show up at a gym and a personal trainer will be able to get you in shape looking like a model in a 2-week session. But that's how we treat behavior change. Also, it is very important for me to note that we have to quit holding these kids to a higher standard than we are willing to live up to. Remember my kid that I mentioned earlier, 5 days, cell phone. Tell me you've never snuck in a text or an email during a work meeting. Then you want to miss work without pay for 5 days? Guys, other countries are getting this concept. Insurance companies get this concept. Remember what happened to your car insurance when you turned 25? Think that was random? They understand that our brain's risk-reward regions are not fully developed until our mid-20s, yet under what we know about suspensions and the outcomes, we are quick to turn a stupid mistake made by an adolescent brain into a potentially life-altering punishment. It doesn't make sense. The good news is there's hope. And really briefly, I want to share with you a few options that are being used around the nation. Ideas that are increasing test scores, reducing disciplinary issues, reducing suspensions, But what I love the most is they align with the hearts of the teachers that I know and that I get to serve, because they are helping us create better human beings. Restorative justice, or restorative practices, nothing new. They're being used all around the country in schools of all levels. Restorative justice is a shift from a more traditional punitive, zero tolerance approach to something that is healing. It is community-based, and wait for it. It's designed to hold kids accountable for their actions and also teach new behaviors. The goal is to make them understand what they did, repair the harm, and hopefully decrease the risk for future reoffense. Restorative justice would argue that discipline is not something you do to a child. It is something you develop within a child. Mindfulness is not just a buzzword. It is an amazing concept, an amazing practice that is being embraced by schools like Robert W. Coleman Elementary School in inner city Baltimore. Robert W. Coleman, every morning and every afternoon, leads every student in a 15-minute mix of yoga and meditation, where they're actually learning to breathe. Coleman also has a mindful room where students who need it can access this room and learn to resolve disputes in a healthy way and decompress and regulate emotions and enter the classroom again. After implementing practices such as these, Robert W. Coleman saw a 2-year period with no suspensions. And lastly, right here in our backyard, we have an amazing initiative called On Track Greenville that is a partnership of United Way, Greenville Health System, Greenville County Schools, and several other community partners. On Track uses an early warning response system where we're able to identify middle school students who are already at risk for not graduating. Once identified, we can surround each student with community supports, professional supports, and whatever they need to get them back on track to graduate. Better human beings. That is one hell of a charge. Do I know exactly how to do that? No. If I did, folks, there would be no need for this conversation. I know one thing. Suspending our kids is not the answer. The ideas that I've mentioned to you today are simply just the result of really good people like yourselves thinking outside the box and trying to keep our kids in school by doing whatever it takes. I would encourage you to please look into these ideas, be critical, make them better, encourage your school boards and your school members to do the same. Above all, hold us accountable to do the job that we signed up to do. And that's to take your kids and make them better humans.
Okay. For those that have joined us, go ahead and put your name and affiliation in the chat box. That video, I love that video for so many different reasons. Quite a few of the reasons, simply because, well, a lot of the practices he talked about are things that I actually did while I was in the field, having the calming room. I actually had a room where I had students to come in and do yoga and meditation and guided imagery. And those kids I actually pulled from ISS. So they were in-school suspension. And so after a period of time of being in school suspension, I would pull them into that particular area to do guided imagery and yoga and meditation, just to calm them and help them understand certain things. The reason why I brought this video up and why it makes sense when we're talking about suspensions as CWAs. You remember, we're changing the narrative. We've helped our state. You guys have been doing an amazing job. Helped our state to stop talking just about truancy, but talking about chronic absence and how it's affecting our kids. And so I wanted to see who remembers what 3 things make up chronic absence, and then you'll understand why we were looking at that video. So what 3 types of absences occur that make up chronic absence? Somebody unmute and tell me.
Hi, this is Dr. Perry from NOLA Public Schools. It's excused absences, unexcused absences, and suspensions make up chronic absenteeism.
Exactly, and in that order. Thank you so much, Dr. Perry. So that's why, you guys, as CWAs, we have to be a part of the discussion on discipline, because those suspensions make up your chronic absence numbers. And so when we look at suspensions, we already know the negative stigma that surrounds suspensions. He spoke about it in the video, and how kids that are suspended are 10 times more likely to have these other major consequences happen further in life, whether it be continuous suspension or expulsion or jail time or dropping out. So I am not naive. I do know that sometimes suspension will be inevitable, especially if a child has committed an offense for a number of times. And with what we're doing in Louisiana, we're not doing out of school suspensions, but we're placing in an alternative site. And so one of the things that I'm hopeful for is when a child is placed in an alternative site, one, we're engaging with families and we're telling them that we're not sending your child there because they're a bad kid. We're sending them there because your child needs a tier 3 level of support where they're going to receive it at this site, so that when they come back, they're going to be ready to roll with their traditional school setting. And that leads me into what I wanted to discuss with you today, which is reentry after suspension. Like I said, I've done a lot of work in the field when it comes to fair process and discipline and attendance through different programs and different programs that I've written. And part of that was reentry after suspension. What does that look like? Who should that include? And shouldn't all schools have a plan for reentry? One of the reasons why reentry, having a viable reentry plan is so important is because it does 3 things. It helps to repair the student-teacher relationship, because remember, at some point the relationship is broken because the teacher wrote the student up. The student got suspended because of that offense. The teacher felt harmed, so the teacher wrote the student up. The student caused the harm, so the student may have done something so egregious that they had to be suspended. Well, when they come back, we need to make sure the teacher feels supported in the student coming back, but also the student feels supported in coming back and don't feel targeted. And so what I found and learned is when I implemented a reentry program for suspension, it helped to bring down our suspension numbers when I was in the field. So I had a program that identified the psychosocial needs of students, hardships of students. So finding out those underlying issues that caused a lot of their behavior issues. And this was in a high school. Understanding our discipline matrix, and so making sure that it was transparent, and students, parents, administrators, teachers, they all knew what the offenses were that were outlined in the student handbook, code of conduct. They understood what offenses were outlined in there. If this offense happened, what the consequences would be. So no one felt targeted. It was fair process. And of course, I'm a huge fan of restorative practices. So of course, we use those 5 questions that I shared with you guys in other meetings where the teacher writes out her 5 answers to the 5 questions that are asked to those that are harmed. And the student writes out answers to the 5 questions that we usually prompted to people that have caused the harm, so that they all have voice. But I actually use that documentation to help facilitate our meeting upon reentry. So sometimes, like I said, suspension can be inevitable. So what should a reentry plan look like, and who should be involved with making it? So one thing I can tell you right now, a reentry plan should be very simple. I know administrators aren't looking for anything extra. Teachers aren't looking for anything extra. But they are looking for things that will help. What I've noticed is many people are making that shift of not just wanting to suspend kids. They understand that if we just suspend them, we're pushing them out into the streets. So I've noticed the talk that people are being more proactive about finding alternatives to suspension. But again, sometimes we can't help it, and we have to send them to an alternative setting. But how are we bringing them back? Are we making sure that they feel welcome? Are we facilitating a positive reintroduction back into the school culture? So this is what I wanted us to do today. I wanted to kind of plant a seed for you guys, so that when you're working on changes in your code of conduct, handbooks, or you're making changes to certain things or initiatives that you'd like to start in your system, I want to impress upon you to actually develop a reentry plan so that kids that go through suspension don't become more likely to reoffend. And that's what I found, that it helped me when I had a reentry plan for our school, that we had, again, suspensions had decreased, but also reoffenders decreased as well. So roles that are detailed in a reentry plan include administration, teacher, parent, and student. It is important that when you write your reentry plan that you include all 4, because you're going to need all 4. And I have parents, but it's family. Whoever is a stakeholder in that child's life, you make sure you include that. So in your reentry plan, instead of saying parent, you might say family, or parent/family/guardian. However you want to write it, that works for your school system, that works. But we want to make sure that there is a role for the administrator, there's a role for the teacher, role for the parent, and the teacher and the student. Just like in the video, he said, we still have to make sure students are held accountable. And in our reentry plans, we have to make sure that they have responsibilities as well. So for administration, this is just a little piece from the reentry plan that I wrote for my school. So for the administrator, this was the principal actually who wanted to be very much so involved, and it was just debrief on the issue that caused the referral. So the principal or the assistant principal or the dean would actually get the referral, as well as those answers to those restorative questions, and they're debriefing on one, if I'm looking at the teacher's form, I can understand that teacher's state of mind, why they wrote this referral, what led up to this referral. But I'm also looking at the students' 5 answers to their question, and I can understand what, from their perspective, they saw that happened that caused them to react the way they did, which necessitated a referral. Then address the needs of the teacher. That's what we seem to forget. If we do suspend a student, that student probably will get suspended, but then they show right back up. But we hadn't acknowledged anything to a teacher. We hadn't told the teacher that, hey, got your back, or hey, that referral didn't really make sense. So maybe this is something you want to try, because after upon, investigating this particular issue, you should probably follow up with the student, because this is why they reacted to something. I do remember me actually having to re-engage a teacher because she actually said something that triggered a student. What she didn't know is that student had just lost their closest cousin in a gun violence, due to gun violence, and she had said something about being a thug or something, and it was just triggering. And so when that teacher actually understood where that student's mindset, she actually retracted the referral. So just again, making sure our administrators are following up with teachers and also giving them something back in writing. But administrators also should be meeting with the student. And so that's where they're getting that paper. But also it says in statute, we should be meeting with parents. Also facilitate the reentry meeting for students, family, and teacher, and then assign the student a safe person. That is important. When we assign a student a safe person, that means we identify someone on campus for that student. When they come back from the alternative site or alternative program, we want to make sure, one, that they understand what the expectations are of them, that the rigor hasn't changed, expectations haven't changed, but we are here to support them. And to make sure that we're supporting you, we're going to identify a safe person that you're comfortable with, that you're going to, I had our safe persons that were assigned, they met with students every day for 2 weeks. And we did that for 2 reasons. One, to establish a routine for that student. They checked in every day. If they were having a good day, they signed off having a good day. If they're having a bad day, that teacher did not have to counsel that student. That teacher was only responsible for writing an excuse pass to the counselor, so that that student to talk to a counselor and work out whatever issue it is that they're having. Reason being, we set kids up for failure when we know they're having a bad day and we expect them to sit in class. So if I know you're dealing with something and I'm not okay with you putting your head down, why would I set you up for failure knowing that you just want to put your head down when I can just give you an excuse pass to see the counselor so you can work out whatever it is you need to work out? Now, the next reason why we do that is we're creating relationship. If that student is seeing that person every day for 2 weeks, it's going to remind them that I have someone on campus. So even after those 2 weeks are up, when they see that teacher in the hall, high five or hey, they're still telling them that, I'm having a good day. And when that kid is past the 2 weeks and they're having a bad day, rather than get in trouble, they'll probably come back to that safe person that they were assigned weeks ago. So those are things that you would want to think about as an administrator, or put in your plan for your administrators that they should do as part of the plan. Next, our teachers. Again, just like I said, that our our administrators are meeting with the teacher, the teacher is meeting with them as well. And what they're doing is discussing how we're going to support this student coming back. What's the plan? They're going to make sure that they're reviewing the student's work from an alternative setting. Were they doing the work while they were at the alternative setting? Because again, we want to make sure that how we choose to discipline doesn't affect that student's grade, because again, that looks like we're targeting when it does. Make sure that that teacher attends the reentry meeting. When that student comes back to school, they're not just going straight to first period. They're coming in, meeting with the administrator, the teacher, the parent is coming in to sign them in as well, along with another person that can be a part of that. So that the one, again, like I said, we were sharing what expectations were. And so as a part of that, the teacher shares what they would like to have from the student shares what they need from the teacher and the administrator, and the parent also gives feedback, and we'll get to that as well. But the teacher should be making a parent call or family call once a week for 2 to 4 weeks. And these calls should be positive, Because again, we are not only doing re-entry for the student, but we're doing re-entry for engagement with the parent. Because in many instances, we have to re-engage some of these families because they're upset. You suspended their kid. And now I feel like you're picking on me. And if this is a parent that has had a negative experience with school systems, they're bringing that hurt with them to the school. So we want to make sure we're changing that as well. And how we can do that is changing the school culture by making sure that when we're making these phone calls, we're not only calling about the negative, but we're calling about the positive as well. So when this student comes back to school from the alternative setting, that after a couple of days, that teacher should make a phone call. Hey, I noticed that John is back on track, and I just wanted you to know that. Or hey, John didn't go to sleep. So you guys must be, taking care of and making sure he's sleeping on time. I just wanted to send kudos to that. Or if there is a challenge, tell the parent what the challenge is, but then also leave on a good note. If the challenge is he's still talking, he's still talking, but he was engaged in class. So there's a plus. So if you can work with me on making sure he knows just to raise his hand, then, he's going to be on the right path. Also documenting that student's progress and their challenges, because it helps us CWAs. Because remember, I shared with you guys that when you do when it comes to students and hearings, and they have their little folders, we want to see what interventions were done. If you hadn't done tier 1, tier 2, and see, this is like a tier 2 type intervention right here coming back. So if you hadn't done a tier 1 and tier 2, why are we talking about tier 3 interventions if it's not one of the big major 3s that'll get a kid not only suspended, but also jailed? So again, making sure that we're instructing teachers to document progress and challenges so that can be either the part of a file that helps a student, or part of a file that helps a student get to a tier 3 level of assistance, which is that, they would need long-term at an alternative site. The parent. One thing I learned while I was in the field is parents actually want to be engaged, even the ones who had bad experiences, because they wanted to at least come and tell somebody off at school. And I used to let them. And then by the end of the conversation, we were talking about how they were going to volunteer. So when the parent finds out that student is going to go to an alternative site, have that meeting face to face, but also let them know, hey, we're going to meet with you on this date when this student comes back, and we're going to discuss what needs to go forward. And that administration needs to ask that parent, hey, is there anything that we can do for you at school to assist you? Because that's one of the things that I've learned when talking to some of our neighboring states that have community schools, that have schools that provide resources inside the school. So they have little areas that have someone that helps with housing, and helps with food, and helps with clothing, and helps with identifying mental health support. And if a parent has issues with finding a primary caregiver, all of that is just in their school. And we don't have that luxury, but we do have the capacity to at least ask a parent, how can we support you? And what resources can we help you find? Because if you notice on this call, we have some partners that can help us and can provide resources. And we have our own resource list as well that will be on the website, along with the toolkit, so that you guys have access to that. Also, the parent should be ensuring that the school has updated contact information. So when you get that parent to school, and I remember sharing with someone, when I would do a home visit because I didn't have proper information, we couldn't catch the parent on the phone. I would make the home visit, and I would say, I just came by to let you know that your child has been doing an amazing job at school today, or did an amazing job at school today, or, their behavior has improved, but I couldn't call you because I don't have your number. Well, the parent was like, oh, well, let me give you my number. I thought something was wrong. again, it helped to bring about some positive parenting, parent engagement, but also I got the right information that I needed. So if there was going to be an issue with that particular student, I could get on the phone with that parent, and that parent knew I wasn't just calling about negative, or they knew that if I was calling, it was because I truly cared. So again, engaging, making sure that parent is turning in proper contact information. Also making sure that we need the parent to understand, we need you to engage with the teacher. The teacher is a part of your village. And when you don't feel like a teacher is a part of your village, we really need to sit down and talk. Also, they need to be able to follow up with their student. They need to make sure that they're making that their student is turning in their work, that their student is meeting with their safe person, that their student, they're asking about their day every day when they're coming back, based on so that we can work as a unit in making sure that that student doesn't become a reoffender. And then the student. It is the student's responsibility to attend that meeting with everyone involved, to complete all of their assignments while they're at the alternative site and make sure that they're turning it in. But also remind them that, you know, in this age, if you got questions about an assignment, you still have access to Google Classrooms. You still have access to help sites that can help you. You don't have to just sit there and not know. And of course, at alternative sites, they have very knowledgeable teachers. Also, they have to meet with their safe person. And my standard was every day for 2 weeks. You might say every day for a week or every day for a month. That's up to you, however you want to write in your reentry plan. And of course, engage with administrators, teachers, and their parent. They need to understand that they have a village around them, and we're here to support them, and we don't want them to be reoffenders. Yes, you had to be suspended for this offense, but you don't have to repeat this behavior. And we're going to show you better ways to communicate. We're going to model the behavior we want you to show. But also we're going to teach you different behaviors. Like for me, when our kids went to ISS, I did group counseling with them as well. So not only did I do yoga and meditation, I did a group counseling session where we talked about self-esteem and bullying. And we talked about stress and fear. We talked about foundational things that their parent probably wasn't even aware that they were stressing or dealing with. So those, you know, you just want to make sure that in your reentry plan, you're including the student as well. It's not that, remember, and I know you guys see it on my signature. Like I said, I'm a fan of restorative practices, and I'm a fan of its, of what it stands for, which is we, you know, kids, people in general are happier, more productive, and more willing to change their behavior when we do things with them rather than to them or for them. So this plan can't be about doing something to a student, and it can't be about doing things for a student. It has to be about doing something with the student, something with the parent, something with the teacher, something with the administration, so that we can all work together to move forward in a positive way, so that this student doesn't become a reoffender and then go down that rabbit hole of negativity that the video had described. So when thinking about this, I know I mentioned the four entities that I would include in my reentry plan. Like I said, administration, teacher, parent, student. What other stakeholders do you think should be involved? So go ahead and unmute and shoot some out to me. Who do you, like, after hearing this, who else should be involved in creating a reentry plan?
This is Constance. How is everybody doing? I would think the teacher would be helpful, as long as, the teacher would be helpful in creating a behavior plan.
Remember, this isn't a behavior plan. This is a reentry plan. This is how we're going to keep
But the reentry plan.
Yes. And so And you're absolutely right. So we have, like I said, the administrator, teacher, parent, and student. So you're absolutely correct. We definitely want to involve the teacher, but also we probably should involve other teachers. So not just the teacher that wrote the referral, but possibly another teacher that this student has a better relationship with. How does that sound?
And the social worker.
Ah, yes, the social worker. So where I wasn't blessed to have one of those. So if you have one, then I would say yes, please include the social worker, the counselor. If the counselor isn't tied down with other obligations, definitely, because it is at the top of their radar to be a support, a support for students when it comes to their mental health and emotional well-being. Are there any other stakeholders you guys believe should be involved?
I actually placed mine in the chat. This is Melissa O'Berry with St. James School District. We have an outside agency, Access Health, that works very closely with some of our schools in our district. So I think inviting the caseworker as well.
Nice, thank you. I'm glad you reminded me of the chat, y'all. I didn't even open that up. But yes, let's see here. Yep. Probation officers. Yeah, because some of our kids do have probation officers. If it's a special education student, the SPED teacher of record should possibly be involved to support the student for success. That is exactly correct. Also, I made sure when I wrote out my discipline plan that a SPED person was there in the making of writing that plan. You definitely want to make sure that you're writing something that is inclusive and making sure that students are not without their supports when it comes to our ESS students. So definitely including those individuals as well. Thank you for sharing, you guys. All right. So before I get to this, one of the things that I did want to share is if you are looking to do a reentry plan and you want to go over it with me, I am all ears, because that is something we can tackle over the summer and share with your principals. Remember how I shared with you guys, you probably want to start now requesting when school starts, you want professional development time at different schools. So one, you can explain attendance codes to some of these people. Two, so you can explain how, not only discipline attendance codes, but discipline codes, and as well as if you have a reentry plan, or else if you have some changes to discipline, you want to make sure that CWAs have a spot at professional development so you can make sure these schools have the same information as you. It makes no sense for you guys to get the information and it doesn't trickle down. You're doing amazing things where you are, but we also want to make sure it trickles down so that schools know before they call you, they know where to look. Before they call you, they know that, hey, I probably should call this parent, or maybe we can do a home visit before the CWA has to do the home visit. Because I know when I was in the field, I did it. I didn't want the first home visit to come from the CWA. Like, why, if I'm in this community and I'm a part of this community and I'm invested in this school, why isn't my face the first face this family sees when there's an issue? But that's just me. I'm sorry. I get on my unicorn sometimes. But again, send me 3 dates 3 times and we can discuss what a reentry plan can look like for your system. It can be as simple as it needs to be. so that we can make sure that principals and teachers and parents and students and families and other stakeholders will really buy into it. So with that said, I don't want to hold too much of your time, but I do want to share this. So you guys already know, Louisiana Attendance Alliance, a part of that is our partnership with LSU and our their SREC team, which we said hello to this morning, and they're on with us. I'm super excited because in the invitation, you guys should have received this message. This message was embedded in today's invitation for today's meeting. Our LSU partners will be delivering a 3-part attendance toolkit training. So you know all of those resources that we've been putting together throughout this, the times that we've been meeting. The LSU team is creating with their attendance specialists a toolkit for you guys to use that will be on the website, so you'll have access to it. So that training will be to our Attendance Alliance that will include information on evidence-based attendance strategies and tools. When we start this 3-part series, please, please, please forward your invitation to your principals and other relevant staff. So like the clerical staff, the ones that take attendance, forward this, and we want to invite them. So so starting in June, hopefully in June, July, and August, that will be the 3-part series for the toolkit training. Now, after we want to make sure we invite all of them. And then of course, following these trainings, LSU is going to offer you guys a 1-hour toolkit office hours during the month of July. So like in the middle, or else it'll get pushed back to the last month. Miss Jada, can you elaborate, or Miss Judith, are we looking to do the toolkit, that office hours during the last month, or keep it towards the middle?
Good morning, Miss Adams. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
We would like to do the office hours after the presentation of the 3 trainings, so they'll probably be in August.
Awesome.
We're working with the department on our scheduling.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much, Dr. Judith, for that information. So I'll make sure in the slide deck that that's changed before it goes out. So it'll say in August. And of course, that is all contingent upon us being able to finalize that. So we'll be able to update you guys as well. And some of you guys I've engaged with, and we've talked about after this 3-part series, and if you've done the 1 hour, you'll also be eligible to get eligible to receive some assistance in building out your success plan with our Alliance team. So your attendance success plan. So to be a part of that initiative, you would need to participate in all 3 toolkit trainings, as well as do the 1-hour toolkit office hour to receive that additional support in creating a successful attendance plan for your parish, for your school district. And more information will come in an email to those that shared with me that they were interested. All right, so here's an activity I wanted us to do. I just want to make sure we're all going to be in the same frame of mind when we leave off this call in regards to the reentry plan. So imagine you're drafting your reentry plan for your system. I want you to provide me, what's the objective of your reentry plan? Why are you writing it in the first place for your parish? After all you've heard, I want you to put it in the chat box or unmute yourselves and share with me at the top what you're sharing with your principal. Provide the objective of your reentry plan. And let me open up my chat box so I can see. Mr. Bueller says to ensure a smooth transition back into the school environment. Yes. Ms. Albert says to avoid reoffenses. Exactly. Ms. Thomas, to give the student the tools, skills for them to be able to return to school and be able to successfully navigate through a situation that sent them to an alternative guessing setting. Yes. Mr. Doucette, so that your whole district is on the same page. Exactly. We want to make sure that we're creating a plan that will help to decrease offenses, that we're bringing and creating smooth transitions for students, that we're creating a space so that kids are able to successfully navigate through situations, and also making sure our district is on the same page. Ms. Davis, to identify expected behaviors and supports to help the student be successful. Exactly. That's what being able to come together in that meeting, that reentry meeting, and see how we can help that student. To positively engage in learning and all school activities consistently. Exactly. We want them to learn behaviors, positive behaviors, and understand that suspension wasn't an end all, or it wasn't a catalyst to you being the problem child of the school. To help the student understand there is a consequence for the action, but we are here to help them become productive or well-rounded students. Exactly. Again, like I said, if you know me, you know I don't even like talking about suspensions like that. I believe we can save them all. We don't have to send them home. But I also know it's inevitable that some of our babies, they just need additional support away from others because we don't want them to be disruptive all the time in a class. Yes, sometimes they need to know that we support them and have their best interest at heart. Exactly. So with these reentry plans, we're reminding them when they come back to school that we are here for them. Like he said, nobody took the teaching jobs for pay, or nobody took a teaching job because those benefits are wonderful. Nobody took a teaching job because, the vacations that come with it, because I mean, let's be real. But you guys, like, teachers do this because they want to see kids be successful, and we need students to believe that. So we have to create opportunities for them to believe that, and that's what this reentry plan will do. And you guys being able to create one for your system and help teachers to buy in, help administrators to buy in, and this will help parents buy in. This will help students buy in, and also ultimately, hopefully, change the culture and climate of the school to where students understand that even if I get held responsible with a consequence, I know that that consequence came with love and it came with care, and that I know that I'll be welcomed back and like I never left. So thank you guys so much for sharing. These are some amazing objectives you guys have shared with me. I appreciate it. All right, before I let you guys go, did anyone have any questions, comments, testimonies while we have we have some time regarding anything that was discussed today?
Yes, Ms. Adams.
Yes.
This is Carmen Overton from St. Helena Parish. I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for everything you've done this year to help revitalize the Child and Welfare Department with attendance, discipline, and truancy, and continue to do what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just want to say I appreciate all of you. You guys are out there doing it and making it happen. Like I said, if you notice, how people are talking about attendance is changing, and it's because of the work you're doing. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you changing the narrative and not just talking about truancy, but we're actually acknowledging all things that keep kids from instructional time. And we're helping schools get better. We're helping parents understand attendance better. We're not being punitive, we're being more restorative. And I'm going to continue to look for opportunities for learning so that we can get more professional development in those areas, so that we can move forward on family engagement. So like he said in the video, we don't want to do one and done things. We want to do actual things that are built into our program. So this reentry plan, it's family engagement, actually, if you think about it. And it's not a one and done. It's something that can be built into the culture of the school. And that's the thing, and to the culture of the districts. And that's what we want to do. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate you guys. Updates, of course, our next meeting will be June 1st at 8 a.m. Our conferences haven't changed. I haven't gotten any new conferences. So if you guys know of any conferences that will be of benefit to CWAs, please let me know and I'll make sure I put them on here. We have the Fins Association Conference coming up on May 25th through the 27th. I'll actually be speaking at that conference. And Fins is Families in Need of Services. So some of you are very familiar with that organization, and some of you might not be. But they are a great resource, especially when you get to on our tier level of support. When you get to tier 3, that's where they kick in and they help. LACWAP is having their summer conference. Again, that is an association, Louisiana Association of Child Welfare and Attendance Professionals. That's an association for you guys. So if you have not joined that organization, I would encourage you to do so. This is an organization of your peers, and so that you guys are making sure you're getting the most up-to-date information and resources that are out there regarding the work that you do. It is my job to support you in that area as well, but I also believe in community, and that is a great community to be a part of. Please make sure that if you're able to, come to that conference. That's June 21st to the 23rd at the Embassy Suites, and it'll be in Baton Rouge as well. And then the International Association of Truancy and Dropout Prevention, they're having their annual conference all the way in October. So you can make plans for that, and it'll be at the Astor Crown Plaza in New Orleans. So again, if there's anything that you guys want me to acknowledge on the state on our call, please feel free to send me an email and I'll make sure I add it to the call. Let's see here, and let me check my chat so I don't miss anything. Oh, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I love that video too. So remember, you guys, you're going to get this recording, so you'll have access to that video as well. Let's see, please email okay, I will definitely email you, Ms. Brumley. As a matter of fact, if you could shoot me an email to my email, and I will send you the Fins conference information. Okay. All right. Again, I do not want to hold you when I don't have to. You guys have 14 minutes. If you put it on your calendar that you should not be disturbed, continue to not be disturbed for the next 13 minutes. It is my gift to you because I appreciate you. If you have not heard it today, you are absolutely amazing. The work you do speaks volumes to the person and character that you are. I know that when I walk into a room with any CWA, I actually feel like I am, I get excited. Like I got a chance to meet with Miss Dixon Tinsall, and that was great. When I went to, I didn't get to see Miss Carmen in St. Helena, but I got a chance to talk to her, and I really enjoy engaging with you guys. So please, please, please reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, testimonies, or you just want to meet, or you have an event coming up, if it works for my calendar, I have no problem driving to you. I want to be out in the field. I want to support what it is you're doing, because you're doing amazing things and people should know it. And I want to be able to highlight it and share it. But also, I just want you to know that you're appreciated. So you guys take care, have a great day, and know that you're appreciated. Talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye. Yeah.